Perfect. Welcome, everyone, to today's panel discussion, Think Green, How to Align Our Jobs Sustainable. A very warm welcome from me. Some of you might be surprised why you're seeing my face right now and not Tijen's face. Yes, Tijen was supposed to moderate today's panel. Unfortunately, she has fallen sick and I am stepping in for her. I am Mere Scheidemann. I'm a senior consultant at ACI Diversity Consulting. If you have heard of Tijen, you might have also heard of ACI Consulting, since Tijen is the founder of ACI Consulting. With me today, I have three lovely guests. We have Elena. Elena has been with Zühlke for a year now. She's a sustainability innovation consultant with a big focus on resilience in value chains. Then we have Felix. Felix is an advanced systems engineer and has been with Zühlke for 4 years. His focus is on bringing physical products from first idea to series production. And last but not least, we have Francis. Francis is a lead project manager, has been with Zühlke since the beginning of this year, so a pretty new member at Zühlke. And her focus is really on project management, sustainability consultant, and she has a scientific background. So welcome, all of you. Maybe a first little question to start. Today, we're talking about thinking green. How can we make our jobs more sustainable? So maybe just to start off, what personal points of contact do you have with sustainability in your everyday work life?
Okay, I take the start. Originally, for me, sustainability started small, which is, I think, the way it starts for most people. So you use public transportation, you don't print everything you need to print out. In my case, I then also started to eat less meat. For me personally, that was at some point not sufficient anymore. So I wanted to do more than just for me personally, privately, don't fly that much. So I went back to school and actually, although I already had a degree, did a master's in sustainability. So I could then also integrate sustainability in my job. And this is what I do now. Originally, before I joined Zühlke, I was also at the startup where we were focusing on the sustainability of food. And now with Zühlke, also to have an impact in my work life.
Very interesting.
All right, then. So my story with sustainability began when I started looking at supply chains and value chains. And when you look at the very beginnings, I also have background in food sustainability, just like Francis. And when you look at the value chains, and then you've realized that you already see the effects of the climate change on how our food is produced. So the droughts, the floods, just the changing patterns. They don't even need to be drastic, to affect agriculture, for instance. And then you see, all right, so you have a bit of a weather change. What's with that? But then you see how many people do depend on this weather patterns and are affected by them. And then you realize that there are lives behind that. Then you start seeing the consequences, and you honestly start taking that personally and quite seriously. And in food, there is a room for improvement, that's certainly. And well, that was my kind of first introduction, after which I realized that could be my career path, with the purpose of changing the status quo in there. So I ended up not in the food industry, but just as exciting. Manufacturing companies do have a long way to go to improve how they function and how they actually improve the livelihoods of people around them.
Okay, so unlike my lovely colleagues here, I don't have a background with sustainability in informal jobs because Zühlke was personally my first one, and so I grew into this topic with Zühlke actually, and it was also motivated by my private life. And then we took this motivation and said, okay, we have to do something here, and put this topic on the agenda. And I will tell you more about this, I think, in the talk later on.
Cool. Thank you all very much. So interesting to hear about this, and all very interesting and impressive CVs as well. To everyone watching us live right now, please do not hesitate to put comments in the chat, to put questions in the chat, so that we can really have a lively discussion today. I would personally start off because me as a diversity consultant, diversity also plays a big part within sustainability. And my question would be for you, Francis, what role for you does employee diversity play when it comes to driving sustainability?
Yeah, nice question. Thank you. To start off, for me, diversity is not just gender diversity, which the title of Global Digital Women might suggest for this podcast. For me, it's a lot broader, so it goes beyond skin color or sexuality or stuff like that. It's everything that defines us as a person. And typically, we tend to surround us with people who are similar to us. We like what it's familiar, it's comfortable, and it's brilliant in a personal life. But for companies, this is actually not really ideal, because companies constantly need to adapt and innovate and improve. And for that, you need to be challenged. You need someone rethinking what you're doing, giving you a new point of view to see how you can improve and how you become better and how you can make your product better or invent something new and improve your processes. And for that, diversity is extremely helpful, because all the different perspectives and ideas and background and knowledge you get from these people help you to challenge your status quo. And bringing this now to sustainability, we need to challenge the status quo, because the status quo is what got us into this mess right now. So we need to do it differently. And in that respect, diversity is key to become more sustainable. And the important point for me, and I think also for the others in the panel, was that to be very clear that a lot of companies, and Zühlke is not exception, lack diversity in this regard, limit their potential. And it's important for us to change something and walk with the company to actually improve here.
So true. Thank you. I mean, yeah, I always say it doesn't really help me much if there are a bunch of mini merits around the table, because we will probably all come to the same conclusions, think about the same ideas. So diversity really is a catalyst for innovation. Yeah. Speaking of innovation, and also Elena, you're also a consultant. You're a sustainability innovation consultant. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What does your job really involve?
All right. So as the title suggests, I'm consulting our clients on how to integrate sustainability. So from assessments from the very beginning up to transformation. And at Zühlke, we have a very wide range of expertise. I mean, we do software, we do hardware, we do data analysis, data collection, so data pipelines. It's a bliss, so that we do so many things, but it also gives you a very wide range of opportunities how you can contribute to sustainability, because sustainability itself is a very complex problem. And so a huge part of my role is to find out the tools, the right tools, the right combination of tools. So that's a very creative job. And also to find, to sort of also challenge the status quo in a sense, like we used to use this tool for something what I would say conventional, but something else. So how can we now take that and do better and apply that in sustainability? So that's, to wrap it up, so that's external work in a sense of consulting the clients, but also internal work into changing the mindset in the company, how our conventional tooling should and must work in this sustainability field.
Very interesting. Speaking of jobs also, Felix, your position as an advanced systems engineer, you said it before, you in contradiction to the other two participants of this panel, have not yet had a sustainability background within your professional life. What points of contact do you have with sustainability right now in your current job?
So we heard about different perspectives and roles. I'm the engineering guy, so I'm responsible for the design of new products. Let's imagine coffee machine, a hairdryer, whatever it will be. So I'm responsible for selecting which components will go into this product, select the material for the housing and for the inner components, define how it will be used in the end. So I have very many points where I can actually influence the sustainability of the product. As we heard, this is just one perspective. You also need to have a good strategy and also a business case to make a successful product, which will then help the planet and the company. But my job is really on the technical level, and there is a lot of options to influence the sustainability of a device. And I think we're only just starting and understanding how big the impact can be on this stage.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And with all of those opportunities to kind of include sustainability and think sustainable while designing products, while being on the technical side, what really was it for you where you said, okay, this is why I want to bring sustainability into my work process?
I think we are all very well aware that we have to change something in the way our society and business is running, and especially in the last 3 years, when we began this journey at Zühlke, it's becoming even more clear and clearer every month. I think that we have to change a lot, and also the European Commission and other political and also the governmental players are really pushing also the companies. And so there's this intrinsic motivation, which also comes from my private motivation, as Francis and Elena has also said. And then on the other side, we really have to go into this direction if we want to make business in the future.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And are there any specific sustainability goals that you're also trying to achieve within your field?
I think the biggest goal for us, because our expertise is really the product development and the design of products. So I think we'll be really good at designing products for the circular economy that can be used more than one time, and you have to do specific things and design products in other ways than we were used to do it for single-use products. But in the end, it's nothing new for us as engineers. It's just a new focus, and I think we will be our biggest contribution can be this.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Thank you. Francis, now we've talked about Elena's and Felix's roles and kind of what their work involves. What about you as a lead project manager? What are your main areas? What does your role involve?
I'd say I'm, on the one hand, after we now had the engineering guy, I'm the organizational guy. Most of my job contains, making sure that the project is running smoothly. Projects typically have 4 dimensions. So you have a scope, what do I actually want to do? You have budget, how much am I allowed to spend? In what time should it actually be ready, and to what quality? And you have agreed at the beginning of the project to some extent which one is fixed, where you have a bit of room to wiggle. And then it's my job to make sure that we actually deliver to what we've agreed in the beginning. And that's a lot of organization. And the second part of my job is a lot of people business. I need to make people happy. I need to keep the project team happy in the sense that they have everything they need, all the knowledge, all the tools to do their job as good as they can. And on the other hand, there are typically also a couple of external stakeholders, for example, the management who pays for it, that needs to be kept informed, involved to some extent. That's also my job. And although title just says lead project manager, my internal project, let's say, is also sustainability for Zühlke. We want to improve in that sense that we want to help our clients to become more sustainable. And for that, we also need to learn and we need to grow. And this is my internal project, which is then also the sustainability part. And my goal is that at some point, sustainability comes one of this dimensions that everyone keeps in mind when doing a project. And it's not just money you spend, but also how can we be good for the planet.
Mm-hmm. And when you talk about your job kind of also involves keeping people happy. I mean, purpose is already is always a big topic. Purpose within your workplace. Do you kind of see driving sustainability forward as maybe your personal purpose, but maybe also as a team effort?
Purpose always helps. That is very, very true. If people see the purpose of their daily job, they are more engaged. They are more, inclined to really, really give their best. And for a lot of people nowadays, sustainability can be a driver if they have the feeling that what they are currently working on really has an impact. And the impact part is the important one. If it's something small on the side, or even you have the feeling that goes towards greenwashing, then it's not really helping with the motivation. So the impact is what helps. I don't think that sustainability can ever be the one driver, but it's definitely, at least for me and what I feel from my colleagues, it becomes more a driver for a lot of people.
Thank you. Elena, you've joined Zühlke just last year, but you already have many years of experience in sustainability and also have done research within this field. What do you personally see as the greatest effectiveness of sustainability and of innovation?
All right. Sustainability and innovation, they're synonymous in many respects. Well, because sustainability, it appeared as a concept, and we actually talk about that because we as humans, we used to do things in a certain way, and it appeared to be pretty destructive to ourselves. So it actually endangers the habitat that we are in. It compromises, the way that our children, grandchildren are going to live. And we already see effects ourselves. And so that's actually, by the concept and by the definition, sustainability is about change that we need. And innovation is a change, is a word that actually is interchangeable with change, right? If I may say so. So, however, I must say here that I would be very cautious when saying, when people, places two words together, sustainability and innovation, because there is a tendency to see innovation in a very limited way, to reduce it to technology, so that a technology will come, it will say, like, it will be perfect, it will do things differently, it will solve all our problems. So what shall I do? I shall do nothing, because I just wait for some people to invent something and bring that to me, and then all the sustainability problems are going to be fixed. So it's actually demotivates, and people even use the term, it's called technofix. So sustainability reduced to kind of a technology is called technofix. And this becomes very dangerous, because when people say, okay, sustainability and innovation, all right, then just wait for innovation, for this technofix to fix it all. So I would say that we innovation is crucially important to sustainability, but one must understand that that does not go into technofixes. It rather goes into the mindset. So that means that one needs to understand that the change does not start when someone is bringing you something, simple and easy, and it's just going to happen there. So it's a tedious process. It starts with the mindset. It starts with understanding the determination, and then the rest is following. So in that sense, I think it's very, very important and to be careful with these two terms. And in Zühlke, we are not looking, although we're looking for technologies, but the important part is to understand what are we fixing, and how to make sure that this is going to work for a specific case.
Tightly fixed. Already learned a new term today. Very, very interesting. Thank you. We've talked about purpose briefly with you, Francis. Felix, you know that it's Zühlke's vision and also mission. If we're talking about purpose, let's talk about vision and mission as well. To use combined brain power of people. We've talked about diverse groups of people towards one common goal. What collaborative measures and project have you developed regarding this?
So maybe one of the biggest measures we put in place, and it was already quite at the beginning, was that we founded the Sustainability Circle, which is a collaboration with a lot of persons of industry, a lot of one of the biggest German companies, and also partners who have expertise in different fields of sustainability, and to have a more or less open exchange on topics they are all confronted with, and to tackle this topic together, because we felt that this topic is a bit outstanding of the typical business topics where you would not want to have a lot of exchange or too much exchange between other companies and your direct competitors. But we feel that sustainability is more a topic of also the heart and gives a lot of purpose, as we heard, to the employees. So their partner companies are quite open to this, and it's a very good exchange.
Very nice. Yeah, exchange is always very important, as we also talked about, that only if we challenge the status quo, we challenge ourselves, is when we can really think outside of the box, achieve innovation. I've also heard of the so-called sustainability circle at Zühlke. And Francis, maybe a question for you. The sustainability circle, as I have heard, is facilitated or facilitates regular exchanges between like-minded people on the topic of sustainability. Can you explain a little bit more about that? Can you explain a little bit more about what benefits and opportunities arise from initiatives like that?
To some extent, Felix has just covered it already. As a starter, I wouldn't necessarily say like-minded people, because it brings together so many different views. The common factor is there is some interest in sustainability-related topics. That's the common factor. Otherwise, they're not necessarily like-minded. And this is the good thing. As explained with the whole diversity, we want to bring together people with different backgrounds. And for the companies, there are two main advantages. On the one hand, they can learn from each other, because it's a relatively new topic, what they can do to become more sustainable, what they can change in their products, what they can change in their business models. So there are a lot of mistakes to make and a lot of lessons learned, and the exchange between those companies can help them. And on the other hand, sustainability is nothing that one company can solve by itself. So if you, for example, go into circular economy, to use one of the other lovely buzzwords, rarely a company has all the know-how in-house to really recycle, reuse, repair, everything their entire product. So there need to be collaborations between different companies. So the one is building it and the next one is taking it at the end of the first life and refurbish it or does something with it. And then maybe gives it some of the parts to the next company, and that rebuilds something into new, and we at some point get into this whole circle. But a lot of them can't do it alone. And to get the people talk to each other, this is why we have a couple of fixed meetings. So there are 6 to 8 roundtables. This is really half-day events where they deep dive into a specific topic and can learn a lot from each other. There are smaller events to really just foster this community and this talking to each other, and don't just see each other as competitors, but also as help.
Mm-hmm. Very, very nice. Well said, to not just see each other as competitors, but also as help. Is there any advice that you would give other companies on how they could also introduce initiatives like that?
They don't necessarily need to.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sustainability circle is already there. It's helpful if it grows. Sure, they can start their own circle and try to find partners there and do that themselves, or they can just profit from the network that already exists.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, fair enough. Zühlke initiated this, and obviously it has an interest that it lives. But in my view, it makes sense to hop on an existing network instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and doing it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
which they obviously still can.
Yeah, if I may, so I think the purpose of that is to foster circularity, right? So of our circle and of many other networks around. So if giving a piece of advice to a company, I would say, just start talking to your suppliers, start talking to your customers about how they do things and whether they go in that direction. So they do have the circles on their own, these well-established circles, and it's actually sometimes very motivating, to start on your sustainability journey when you hear it not from some random person from some circle, but from your own supplier or even your client, who are like, but what are you doing to sustainability? So you start kind of feeling the social pressure and even economic pressure at some point. So please build more on existing networks, on existing interactions. I think that is the most helpful that you could do. I mean, as Zühlke, with our sustainability circle, it's also, those are mainly, I would say, our clients who are joining this. So they have certain trust in us. So their relations with us are, deeper than them just joining the circle. So wrap it up, talk to people around you. You can be surprised.
Very well put. Yeah, definitely. I mean, building on existing networks, building on existing knowledge that's already there. And maybe we have some listeners in the audience who are also thinking to themselves, they want to be more proactive. They might want to self-start things. And this first point of starting is often considered one of the first steps towards change. So Elena, maybe do you have any recommendations, any tips that you can give our audience on how to overcome any initial hurdles and how to really be proactive and try to make their daily work more sustainable?
Okay, so that's a simple and a very complicated question if you think about that. I mean, how to be more sustainable in your daily work life. I think, the recommendations are widely known. I mean, I think Francis in the beginning, she started with that, use a public transport, try to eat more plant-based, fly less. That does not actually answer the question how to start doing that. And how to address it, doesn't address the barriers, and unfortunately I can't give an advice that would work just for everyone. So what I would suggest instead, maybe I'm repeating myself here, but start talking to your colleagues, start bringing that up, asking what they do, bringing up the topics, so listening to different views. So first of all, you can learn. So what you would learn is, first of all, their attitude, and you're probably going to find some like-minded people. that might already share some successful strategies and successful tips that are going to work for your context, because what works for my context here in Zurich, working in Zühlke might not work for someone else, right? So talk to your colleagues, look for inspiration. So first of all, that might help you overcoming this barrier. And another thing, as I said, we are social creatures, and that can empower you in a sense of putting some social pressure, and also empower someone else, finding someone, some, let's say, buddy on this journey can actually be pretty empowering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, finding a body. And what we also always in our consulting experience see is that really bringing awareness to the topic first, and also, as you said, start talking to your colleagues. Maybe also as people in leadership positions, maybe use the next team meeting if you have 10 minutes left at the end, and talk about sustainability issues, and also talk about what could we actually improve within our daily work, our workplace, also our facilities, to be more sustainable.
Sometimes you might also already see something in your daily life where you think you can improve. So if, for example, a classic is when you go to your canteen and menu one where everyone goes is the meat menu. So go to the canteen chef and tell him, hey, look, what if you make the standard menu, the vegetarian one, and the meat menu, the menu 2 that people really need to read to. And you can already do that by just talking to them, and it's an easy fix. And you already stepped a bit towards in that direction. You start a conversation. So there's also an option to not just discuss, maybe you already see something, and then just be brave enough to speak up.
Yeah. Look for sustainable coffee sources, for instance. Everyone loves coffee at your workplace. Or, like if you have a lot of plastic wastes, like look for solutions that you can certainly do. And please don't be discouraged if a person talking to you is skeptical about all that. I mean, there are people skeptical, they are not convinced. We are all in the process. There is nothing wrong with that. It's all right. We're moving there. We're going there. Don't be discouraged. Talk to different, coming back to diversity. The more you hear, the better.
Definitely. And I mean, people have been skeptical for years of things that are now being considered normal. So even if it's just a first planting the seed and opening up to new perspectives, definitely a first step towards a big change. We have a question in the chat. Any one of you who would like to take this, what do you have to write business cases? And if yes, how and what components do you consider to make it positive?
Good question. Since the person who maybe has to work with business cases in the daily work is me, I pick that up. Yes, sure. When you start a project, depending on company, you have to write a business case. And the tricky part is that there is no price tag on nature, at least not now. So it's not that there is an easy solution to now just say, okay, we need this and that amount of resources like power or whatever, and it gets this price tag additionally. And if the business case, which is always a financial thing, at least up to now, if that then is positive, we do it. So there's no quick fix to that. On the other hand, yes, companies need to make money. Absolutely true. So it is important to see that there are nonetheless things you can change that are more sustainable and in the end have a positive business case. For that, it's sometimes important to widen the timeline you look at. A lot of companies have a business case or look at the next quarter, the next year, but it might be a more long-term investment. To give an example, there's a company who makes I think a water meters or something. They need to be exchanged every 5 years or 10 years, not 100% sure. The cheapest part is build it in plastic, but it's a one-way thing. And on the other hand, you could build it in copper or brass, and then reuse most of the part when it has to come back after 5 or 10 years, refurbish it, and then put the second generation out after this time. The first time you do that, this is more expensive. But after the second or third iteration, when the parts come back, you only have to change a little bit and you can bring it back to the customer. It can all of a sudden become a positive business case because you just widened the timeline into something where you include also the end of life of the product. And that can then help also in the financial terms. And then it's not just about giving a price tag to nature. It can also be a positive thing for the company.
Thank you. Now we have many comments in the chat about that. Anna Götz from LinkedIn says, "Good point, Francis. My company at Novum has just joined the concept of career lunch, where we have informal lunches with people potentially interested in joining at Novum. In the invite, we tell them to let us know if they don't want meat, and I'm planning to tell the responsible person to change it into the opposite wording also if they want meat."
Yes, very, very good start. Same with coffee. You have to explicitly say if you want something else than cow milk.
Definitely, yeah.
Quick changes.
Another question from Lara Maria. How do you feel about the thesis that being sustainable is more likely an option for the higher middle class?
If I may, being sustainable is actually a must for higher middle class, because if you see the impact distributed per income on a country level, be it on a personal level, you'll see that higher middle class, they are responsible for a lot of impact. So I would say I see where your question coming from, that sustainability is actually might be just for, let's put it that way, rich people who can change, who can be flexible in their lives. But if you look at it from the perspective of the impact, they have to do that anyways. So, and the second part, I can change personal things like my eating habits, but looking for a sustainable job is way less salary, or doing another study is not possible for everyone. I would say there is no one answer who can do what. And it's very hard. And I don't want to be kind of like, everyone needs to do this, and that, and only this is like how you become sustainable. So do what you can, do what you feel you can do. And that is enough. And then, rethink it in a few years.
And maybe another side comment on this. I think the future is on your side. So it's getting more and more important. And also with the importance of the topic, the demand for people who take care of sustainability is growing and growing. So this is definitely, it's the future.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also a very important point, Elena, that you made with do what you can, because I feel like, and this might count for diversity, but also for sustainability, where sometimes you experience a lot of, I would say, kind of pushing each other down instead of empowering each other. Not everyone can do everything all the time. Would you say that even tiny steps help the bigger picture? Because I personally experience a lot of kind of like pushing each other down, like, oh, you have to go all the way 100%. If not, you're not really contributing to the big picture.
Disagree, in the sense that everything helps. Coming back to the eating habits, just because I started with that example, and because of my previous job, I have a bit of a relation to food. I do not advocate that everyone becomes now vegan, because if you forbid people to do something, that's not working. I also like a good steak every now and then. I just want it to be a conscious decision that I take every now and then. I also am aware that right now organic food is more expensive. Not everyone can afford it. That's not the point. But if you can do it every now and then, or for a specific purpose. So for example, at least the meat is organic, but for the vegetables, somewhere I have to make a compromise. Fine. It's also with the flying. Consider taking the train, and if you see it's not working because it takes something like 20 hours to go there and the flight is just to take the flight. But it should be a conscious decision for everyone to do what he or she can and to do a bit of a part where he or she wants and think, yeah, this is a compromise that works for me and that is for me perfectly fine.
For me, this also means inspiring the people around you.
Yeah.
So not forbidding anything and going with the hammer and saying, okay, you should not do this. Live the way you think that's good, and that's how it's meant to be, and inspire the people around you. And I think with these small steps you can do, you can reach more. We will all not be able to solve the climate crisis alone, or to end wars that are going on in this world. But we have to see where we can actually have a little change, and I think this is the way to see it.
Same with companies. I don't expect any company from one year to the other to become fully circular, fully sustainable, CO2 neutral, whatever. That's completely unrealistic. It's step by step, and each little step brings us one little step forward and in the right direction. And at some point, eventually, after a lot of small steps, we reach our goal.
I would again here appeal to the diversity, because in this call we are all very understanding and advocating for step by step, but there are different people, and some people are actually way more well pushing in a good sense, while saying no, that's what you have to do, please aim high, go full sustainable, and so on. And this kind of motivation that actually might appeal to, like different kind of motivations work for different personalities. So I would just say that we are here sort of representing this probably milder approach, but there are also tougher people with the tougher methods. And that actually is good to have both on the way. The only thing, it's very nice when people around you are nice and at least try to push you in a nice way.
In the same way, to build on that, that's also true for the people who now challenge you. Does that really help in terms of sustainability? Because just because everyone is running for an electric car doesn't make it necessarily the best option, because you're still driving a car. Maybe there are also people who say, no, I don't want to become sustainable for these and that reasons, and it's important to listen to them. Because in the end, it's all our people's planet, not just mine or the ones from the super hardcore sustainabilities or whomever. And these counter arguments help us rethink our own position. And then coming back to my original statement, these challenges are important to get me out of my comfort zone. And just if I get there, there's actually possibility that something happens.
And if you come back to the question of Laura Maria, that not everyone can have more sustainable jobs or thesis, and okay, so so your friends all are working for more sustainable companies, or doing something nice and telling you about that, and you're the one working for a non-sustainable company, let's put it this way. I mean, you have options. It does not necessarily mean that you have to kind of just say, oh, now I quit and I start my new life, just because if it's not an option for you, see what you can do with in the position when you are. And this is about challenging your status quo and status quo of your surrounding right now. And please don't be discouraged.
No, never. I really like the point that you made, Francis, about also you said, oh, you can't expect a company to change everything within a year. And I also really, really relate to that, especially with diversity consulting work, which is kind of similar in that way, that first of all, I think for sustainability as well, for diversity, you need specific goals, you need an ambition, because only what gets measured gets done. But then also to not be afraid of imperfection, because doing nothing is probably the worst you can do, and also not being transparent is probably the worst you can do. But actively demonstrating and showcasing, hey, those are the things we're working on. We know we still have a lot to catch up on. We know we're not there yet, but we're actively trying to drive this topic. We're actively trying to make a change here. We'll then probably also attract people who really want to drive that change forward with you. So really, really interesting point. Another thing that I was wondering is that you probably also have heard of the stereotype where sustainability can be seen by companies, by CEOs, board levels as kind of I would say like an annoying topic, a negative topic. Now we have to focus on that as well. We have so much else that we have to focus on. What would be your best recommendations on how to kind of, really put positive emotions around this topic? How can you kind of showcase that, hey, this is actually not only something good and something we kind of need to do and have to do, because we said if you forbid and if you put in rules in place, then people might tend to not view that as very positively. But how can you really kind of load this topic up with positive emotions?
Tough one. Elena, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, there could be very different ways to answer this question. So one could be address the insecurity that this very person has. So for instance, if the person thinks, oh, I'm just too tired to think about sustainability, there's just one extra thing, you would just probably show how how sustainability is already highly correlated with everything that they're doing else. So for instance, if a company is producing a lot of plastic waste, and that's very common in the medical and pharma industry, they need to get rid of that anyways. I mean, that's just annoying to deal with that. So look to the solution that is in the direction of what they're already needing to do. So that would address this burden. If a company thinks, oh, it's just too expensive for us, we don't care. So there could be several ways to address this too. So for instance, it could be like, oh, by the way, do you know that, this law is coming, and if you don't do that, you're going to be fined. So it's, beating cost with a cost. Or it could be that, sustainability is actually the way how you can save the money with circular solutions, just as Felix says. So it really depends. So it's not about the creating like overall positive aura around that. It's rather addressing the specific insecurities, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, specific insecurities. And then, as you said, there are laws currently in place, there are laws coming into place in the future. And it's always better to kind of be the mover of your industry, the driver of your industry, than to be the last ones that kind of have to kind of catch up and be the last ones to kind of make your business sustainable to apply to laws. We have another question in the chat by Loretta. Loretta says, how do you feel about those sustainability certificates that companies can fairly easily acquire?
Good idea, badly done is how I would currently put it. The general idea that you start with the sustainability or with your projects there where you can have with your money the most impact makes perfect sense. And that those people who have the money can help those who don't is also a brilliant idea. So there are a lot of quick wins in developing countries compared to Switzerland. The issue with the certificates is that it's a badly regulated market in the sense that the monitoring that a project is really just done because of the certificate is a tricky part. That, for example, when it comes to planting some trees, that the trees are really there, or whatever kind of other plants, in 50 or 100 years to have an impact, and not just cut 2 years later and someone gets up more certificates for the same area. So there are a lot of issues related to the types of projects, really accounting for it properly, that makes this market extremely difficult. And companies, especially in the first world, tend to make their lives a little too easy with just buying some certificates and saying, oh yeah, brilliant, now we're done. And so, yeah, I stick to good idea, badly done. I'm not too big of a fan, although I see the reasoning behind.
Is there any? Oh, sorry, Felix.
Yeah, because we were looking at.
I was
not sure if you started. Go ahead.
No, maybe because this goes also maybe into the direction of every company becoming climate neutral at the moment. I think you really have to think about what's behind the certificate and the claim that's there. So we have understood now that it's climate neutral just means you can compensate what your emissions are by projects and the planting trees, as Francis mentioned. So I think this is fine in comparison to do nothing. So, but it's, I think, the first step on the transition to become what we call net zero. So this is a really, really big step, and we just have to be aware that we cannot reach it within 1 year. And in the meantime, I think it's okay to have things like compensation projects, but we have to be clear that this cannot be the final goal. And so you have to be aware what stays behind this claim or certificate.
I would say, so Felix has said, like, it could be first, it could be kind of, first steps. I would say would be your last steps. Like, please look at your company, look at what you can do engineering wise. And if you think that you've improved, to the extent that you're ready now, then to look into certification. But please check what you could do in your company first. That would also give you quite a discipline and understanding to what extent you would trust the certificate and to what extent maybe there are things that you can improve. So I certainly suggest you to check that first.
Maybe also thinking about if you're in the middle of changing jobs and you're looking for a new employer. Is there anything that you could recommend, a tip from your side of how to really spot sustainable employers, how to really spot if their company is making an effort and kind of not just putting it out there in terms of greenwashing?
Talk to them about it. This is what the interview process is for. It's not just them to get to know you, but it's also about you getting to know them. So you can check the website first and then really ask specific questions, what you read there, what the next steps are, what their motivation is, and get a feel on how they answer, what they answer, if you have a feeling this is sound, or if they're just bullshitting, or they are just, going for quick wins and then stop there.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly encourage to ask for that, because the more people are asking about that, the faster it gets to the management, also to the upper management, and the more likely they start moving. Because employee engagement is one of the factor that actually brings this idea up. And once they realize that their potential employees request or inquire about their sustainability efforts, the more sound you make, the better you go.
Mm-hmm. Maybe also elaborating on that, because you said management level. So what is actually, in your opinion, more effective to achieve long-term change? Is it really starting at the management level, or does it start with the employees? Does it start with grassroots movements? Is it a combination of both?
I think to be successful in the end, you need both. It can start from either side. What you need is I think, a small group of highly motivated people to tackle this together. And for instance, at Zühlke, it also started as a grassroots movement on engineering level of some colleagues who were really passionate about this topic. And then you have to spread the word of it and convince people from the management, and who would then act as a sponsor for your topic. And that's what luckily was the case, at least at Zühlke, that we always had the support first from our direct line managers, who would give us time to investigate on certain things and find out which questions we would have to answer. And then it grew and grew and reached the top management level. And I think you need those two perspectives and to be successful. So connect with colleagues from whichever area. So here we have the point of different roles and perspectives and diversity. I think this really helps. And then you should look for a sponsor for your topic for management level.
Maybe also, because we only have 4 minutes left, what I'd say, like, closing words, or what last recommendations, what kind of key takeaways do you have for our audience today? What is something that you would want them to take away from today?
Talk to people, be open-minded, especially to new perspectives and new arguments, and try the best you personally can.
I'd second Francis here. So connect. Connect. So to your immediate surroundings, to like-minded people elsewhere. I personally get quite inspired, when just watching some maybe work unrelated sustainability things. Yes, there are the things. So it opens up your perspective and also tells you like there is a lot to be done, and you can think in that direction. And also take care of yourself, because when you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, the only thing that you can think of is survival, and to take more perspective into your head. You should be rather rested and maybe less stressed. So take care. Take a good care of yourself.
And have a positive attitude towards it, because future is on your side, as I mentioned. And sustainability is, I think, just another word for long term, and that's what we call future proof. So go with that.
Very well said. Thank you, everyone. Great takeaways from today's session. Also, feel free to reach out to all 3 of our wonderful panelists today. Also, we've heard about the sustainability circle, so building on existing networks, existing knowledge that is already there, connecting, talking to people, as we also did today. Thank you, everyone, for joining our panel discussion today. Thank you very much, Francis, Elena, and Felix, for being with me today. And I wish you all a wonderful evening.
Thank you for having us, and thanks to everyone who joined us today. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting, and thank you everyone for listening. Have a great evening.